Beste kijkers, vrouwen, mannen, wie er ook kijken op dit moment. We zijn weer begonnen met het programma Vrouwenstemmen. En we doen het vandaag niet in de studio. We doen het vandaag in het plaatsje Zandvoort. Ik bezoek hier 2 vrienden van mij. Ze komen allebei uit Amerika, Boulder, Colorado. Kim, die naast me zit, Loreane McKinney, 44 jaar oud. Zorgdragende voor de stervende is haar status en voor de ouderen. Een heel belangrijk aspect. De ouderen zitten in bejaardentehuizen. Ik weet er alles van. Ik ben van de week op de Nieuwmarkt geweest bij de Flessenman. En daar mochten de ouderen niet persoonlijk met mij praten, terwijl ik daar wat vragen wilde stellen met wat kinderen. Dat moest allemaal via het bestuur. Ouderen hebben geen stem, klaarblijkelijk. Verbaasd als ik was, verontwaardigd als ik was op dat moment. Dat moest via het bestuur en de ouderen mochten mij niet zelf te woord staan. Kim is een zorgdragende voor de ouderen, maar behalve dat ze dit doet, reist ze af en toe ook. En ze komen nu net terug uit Rusland. Ze zijn daar bij het PEN-congres geweest, een groot internationaal congres waarin poets, schrijvers, de media, editors, mensen die bezig zijn met film, daar bij elkaar komen om de schrijvers die in gevangenis terechtkomen omdat ze de waarheid schrijven, of althans het establishment aan de tand voelen, wat niet gewaardeerd wordt. Zij zijn daar geweest, hebben veel materiaal meegenomen. U zult deze week nog wat filmmateriaal van Bob Cohen zelf zien. We praten nu met zijn levenspartner Kim. Kim, welcome. We enjoyed a beautiful day today, didn't we?
Yes, we did. It was wonderful.
Can you start with this lyric you shared with me on the beach today? And I felt at least opened my heart, because I think we as women, to feel that deepest spiritual connection which we have. And you affirm that today by just repeating some lyrics, and my heart kind of opens up. Can you do that?
Sure. It's a song from the Relief Society of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Because I have been given much, I too must give. Because of thy great love, dear Lord, each day I live. I shall divide my gifts from thee with every brother that I see who has the need of help from me. Because I have been sheltered, fed by thy great care, I cannot see another's lack and I not share. My glowing fire, my loaf of bread, my roof safe shelter overhead, that he too may be comforted.
That he too may be comforted. This is an important lyric in your life.
Yes, it helped me find my life's calling. We all have something to give. We all have something to share. We all have gifts. It's up to us to find out what those gifts are and to give them back. We've been given much in this life, and we all have the opportunity to give something back. This is what I do.
It's the simplest thing. You have another one which is also quite simple to to live by.
Mm-hmm. Love one another. It's a simple thing, so simple. It's the basis of everything. As I have loved you, love one another. By this shall men know you are my disciples, if you have love one for another. It's a simple request. It's a simple calling. As far as I'm concerned, it's what would make the world a much better place if we simply love one another.
Okay, the pen, to come back, because the love one another is just what we try to do, or at least sometimes it's difficult. We see a lot of corruption and criminality and other brutal behavior where love is easily turned into hate. And somehow the compassionate state is something we have to keep on working at.
Yes, it is. The PEN Congress this year was basically, the theme was writers, writers have rights. I mean, that sounds kind of funny. The rights of writers and the right of writers to criticism and to be criticized. It was in Russia, which in itself is truly a miracle in light of all that has gone on before. And we hope that there would be openness in Russia, that people would have the opportunity to have freedom of speech, to be able to use their talent to write and say what's important in the world, and to be able to criticize their government when they find that it's doing wrong.
What is, the question arises, how come that it came to Russia?
Up until 15 years ago, there was a total lack of freedom of speech in Russia. Things have gotten better with the changes in Russia, but not nearly enough. And it was hoped by the international pen that by coming to Russia, they would be making a statement that in spite of what was going on with the war in Chechnya, that the writers did in fact have the opportunity to speak their mind, to speak out against what they saw as brutality on the part of their government. It was an opportunity for the world to support the writers of Russia, to stand up for them, to come from all over the world. There were writers from 70 countries, about 200 participants in the PEN Congress this year, and that in itself was amazing because there was a controversy over whether they should come, whether going to Russia would be a statement in favor of the Russian government. Well, they decided, and rightly so, I think, that by coming and by showing the world that the writers there had the opportunity to speak out and criticize their government, that things had in fact changed in Russia. Unfortunately, with what's going on now, freedom of speech is being pulled back. We hate to see that happen, and we pray that things change for the better.
How has it been received?
For the people of Russia, they're wonderful, wonderful people. Everyone wants to know what's going on in the world. They want you to share that they are good people, that they are trying, that all that you hear about the violence and the conflict in Russia, yes, it does go on, but yes, they are trying to find their legs and to become responsible citizens of the world.
There was also a women's committee.
Mm-hmm. Yes, there was a women's committee. There are lots of committees that both women and men participate in, but this in particular was a women's committee for women who speak out against persecution of women writers throughout the world.
I have here a little page, of course, in front of me, and it's written by the president of the Women's Committee, and her name is Eva Excelius. So to know that I'm not speaking on my own account here. And the pamphlet I have here is called Women's Silence, Women's Voices.
She's from PEN, Sweden, not the international PEN. That's her particular part of PEN.
Okay, and she opens the page with why do women find it so difficult to gain access to the public arena and take part in the public debate on equal terms?
Yes.
What are the obstacles, external and internal, conscious and unconscious, visible and invisible, that deprive women of a voice and of influence in society and in political life? So here we go. It's a big statement, isn't it?
Very big statement.
Okay, so give me some of your ideas about the issue of, for example, equal terms.
Mm-hmm. Equal terms covers a large arena. In this particular instance, women are not able to speak freely in large areas of the country. Women have to be given voice. They have to be given the opportunity to say what's needed, to be able to speak out against the wrongs that are committed in their country or other places in the world, to have a voice, to have the opportunity to write and to speak their mind. We would hope that it's going on, but the reality is different.
Yeah, then we come to suppression.
Yes.
Women are still suppressed, one way or another.
Unfortunately, because women are mothers, caregivers, homemakers, also business women, and in the political arena, they have a large job to fill. And on the one hand, you want to be responsible and important to your family and your home, but on the other hand, you need the opportunity to grow and advance in your own right. Well, there's a conflict there, and we're forever fighting that conflict. If you do one well, then somehow you're not doing the other. Yeah. And we can't have it all, unfortunately. So we do the best we can in both arenas.
Yeah, it's like my neighbor this week gave up her shop. She had a store. She was working in a clothing store, and I came in and I said to there were some children. A new woman had taken over the place, and I said, "So where is the woman gone?" And one of the children said the mother was going to answer, but the child took over, and she phrased it very well. She said, "You know, she is going to enjoy her grandson a little bit more because she did not have time for it. So she had to give up the shop in order to do this." Mm-hmm.
Yes, unfortunately, we feel like we must give up one for the other. If we got a little help, and I'm sorry to stand on a soapbox, but women need help to be able to fulfill themselves fully. We need to be able to say to our husbands, our families, our life partners, "Please help me so that I can fulfill all that I can be." And one would hope that they would be willing to help. We can ask and hope that they do.
But in overall, it's a very difficult thing to communicate, and that's exactly what she's stating, how to communicate that area precisely in the public domain as equals. And then we come to a point we discussed it this afternoon, is like men and women seem to sing a different symphony.
Yes, they do. Men are told, go out, make lots of money, bring the meat home to the cave, so to speak. Women are taught to be mothers, nurturers, and caregivers. They don't seem to fit. But in reality, it is a symphony of working together, sharing a life together. Unfortunately, we haven't progressed that far. There seems to be a conflict. And as I said, we need to start speaking the language better. We need to be singing our song together.
So now you're 44. You have gone through a couple of marriages. You had 3 children.
2 children.
2 children. You came to a point after a couple of marriages. You came to this point. I mean, how did you are a black woman. I mean, it all adds to your status. How did you come to the freedom you have come to right now?
Well, I tried to do it all. I tried to be the correct mother, to be the good daughter, to be the good wife, and it didn't work. And the reality was that when my children reached maturity, or as far as I could get them to maturity, I had to be willing to step back and say, now it's my turn. I need to find my voice. Up until this point, I have been there for you. I have nurtured you. I have loved you, and I've done it with the best of intentions, not always the best, but with my heart in it. I had my children very young, and being not formally educated, but having a good heart, I tried to do the best that I could, but realizing that I was unfulfilled and needed to change my life, I was willing to step away from the family life that I had chosen and to take a new path. It entailed moving away from Los Angeles to a totally new part of the country, sight unseen, and basically stepping out on faith and to know that I was doing the right thing. In my heart, I knew that I had a job to do and I had an opportunity to go out and do it, to find my voice, as it was.
So your voice, tell me about your voice.
I truly believe the statement I just made, that all we have to do is love one another. It seems such a simple thing, and yet it seems the most hard thing that in society we have been able to do. There's a conflict. In order for one person to be on top, another person has to be on the bottom. I don't believe that's true. I believe if you put yourself in the other person's shoes, if you are able to reach out and to share who you are with them and open up your heart to them, that the world would be a much better place. And it is as simple as loving one another, to put yourself out a little bit, to go the extra mile, to give a loaf of bread when it's needed, or a room when it's needed, or a home when it's needed, to be available.
I know, but that's a wonderful statement, to be available, but that is a choice one has to make for him or herself.
Yes. Well,
there's probably where a hell of a lot of difficulty lays, because it seems like some people out there who don't want to do that.
Well, for me, it was a life-changing decision. I had basically stepped out on faith. I moved away from my family, but it was something that I needed to do. I needed to give back something, because I truly believed I had been given a new life and a new opportunity to do it right. And I think that in the calling, because I think what I do is a calling, was my opportunity to give something back. I don't know how things work here, but the elderly in the United States are basically a forgotten group of people. Culturally, for me, you would not put your parent in an institution, but unfortunately, either through illness or circumstances, people have to be institutionalized. They have to be put in nursing homes. They have to have someone else to take care of them. Well, a lot of these people are unfortunately put there and left. They're wonderful people who have stories to tell and to be loved and to live out their last days with dignity. And I know it's my calling to be able to sustain them in their daily tasks so that they can live out their last days in dignity. Mm-hmm. It's the thing to do. It's part of that loving one another. It's a difficult job, but it's a most rewarding job, and I think that I get so much more out of it than I could possibly give. I develop families that I didn't think I would ever have. I have relationships that I didn't know I would ever have. And it's kind of like having a world family, really. I mean, this is an opportunity to practice what I truly believe, that basically we are a world family. And it's time we start acting like that. Everyone has something to give, and everyone can be available. And it doesn't take a big, huge thing. It can be as small as a smile. It can be helping someone across the street. It can be preparing a meal for someone. It can be talking to someone. It can be sitting and holding someone as they're dying. It's as simple as that. Just make yourself available, and I truly believe that what you need to do will come to you. If you just make yourself available, you get the message of what's important and what you need to do. It's my song.
How was I mean, you spoke at the PEN conference. Is there a general opinion, like you share with me, about how we as women have to bring out the values and morals we hold in our hearts, have been actually for a long time, by raising our children, by giving birth, by appreciating life as it is, because I feel many women have knowledge. They have almost kept it as secret. They've been in the shadow, so to say.
Yes. The biggest issue that we discussed in the PEN Congress, in the women's group, is the abuse of women and violence against women and children, and how that keeps them from fulfilling their self. For a lot of women, it becomes a choice of, do I open up, do I tell someone that my life partner, my husband, is hurting me? Do I take the chance and possibly lose my home and my children? Because it becomes an issue of money, basically. I mean, it's unfortunate. People have said it was education. If the women just educated themselves, then this wouldn't happen. Well, basically, it gets down to the financials. If the woman calls the police, if they go to court and the man is arrested, well, the breadwinner, for the most part, is lost in the home. With circumstances being what they are, even wealthy women losing that half of their income find themselves homeless in a lot of cases, because they've had a good standard of living, they've had a wonderful, beautiful house. Unfortunately, without that person there who has been abusing them, they can't make the mortgage, they lose the house. They and their children wind up on the street in lots of cases, and that keeps them from saying, he's hitting me, he's hurting me, because they feel like, given the choice, which is an awful choice that they have to make, it's better to stand the abuse and to keep the family intact than it is to stand up for themselves as human beings who have human rights. And that's the big issue. One would think that the courts would help the women, but the reality is we've taken many steps backwards. The court's attitude is, we want to keep the family intact. We don't want to harm the family. But in reality, what they're doing is harming the family, because if children see their parents fighting and arguing, if they see violence, they wind up repeating that. And you have another generation that's tied to violence and abuse.
Okay, but what would be the alternative?
The alternative, I think, would be for women to come together and to be able to share that this is going on, and to speak out and to take a chance. If women collectively got together, they could force the court system to do the right thing. And if it takes shaming society, then we must shame society, because we need to be taken care of, and our children need to be taken care of. And if it takes a forum of standing out on the street corner with the camera like we're doing now to make the world understand that this happens, that it is not the woman's fault. This happens in every economic, and yes, it does, all over the world. And it's time to stop blaming the women and to do something about it. We need to help them. We need to have a place where women can stand up and say, no, this is not right. We don't have to take the abuse. And basically, that's what we talked about most. Another thing we talked about is the sex trade that goes on into the country. I was astounded to hear what happens. You hear stories about prostitution, and you assume that the women have taken it upon themselves to go out and do this. But in reality, on the one hand, circumstances force them out. They need to be able to take care of their children and families, and they have no other way. But in some cases, these women are kidnapped and shipped halfway across the world. Their passports are taken, and they are literally sexual slaves. I was surprised to hear that 50,000 women come to America under those circumstances. They are literally sexual slaves. And it's not just women, it's children too.
So where do they turn to, these women? I mean, where in the whole legal system can you turn to if this is like it's economy almost?
Well, in some parts of the world, they have signed contracts that say they will work for these people, and the contracts don't say what kind of work they would do. Well, it's important to stand up and say, this is what they're doing, this is what's happening, to have a voice, to stand up and say, look, this is what's happened, and to force the government to act. This is illegal, and the government turns a blind eye because in some cases, higher ups in the government are involved in this, and in other cases, it's just too big a problem and they don't want to believe that it happens. But it's important that we voice this.
Absolutely. One of the things I see is that, women, even in higher positions or whatever position, even in the courts or in the justice positions, what they do is, because of also holding their position, they again have to talk with the male system, with the male justice, as it has been set up, in order not to lose their position. So there's another fear point, is what you said, not losing their jobs, etc., etc.
The world aware that this happens. Women in position have an obligation to speak out for those who have no voice, for those who cannot speak. Unfortunately, women who are in positions of importance feel like they don't want to lose those positions, so the women who are less than, who are working class women, they don't think they are the same people fighting for the same rights, but basically they are. Economies thrive because women are there. If women were paid what they deserve for the work that they do, can you imagine how well off they would be?
Absolutely. And can you imagine how independent they would be?
Yes, and that's the problem. They would be independent. But I also believe in their independence that you don't lose anything, you gain.
That's the problem. The fear that, sorry to interrupt, the fear of equally giving, and that it is also our choice to be in love, to use love or the giving state also to the other side, the other life partners, it would be no threat.
I don't think it would be a threat. When a woman is happy and fulfilled, she has so much more to give. She has so many more opportunities. The biggest opportunity she has is to show her daughter what it's like out there, what's available, and how she can become a better person. This gives voice to another generation, and there is nothing lost on that. It's only enhancing, and we have to be willing to pick up those who are lesser than us, to not say, well, that's a washwoman, she's doing it because she's uneducated. The reality is she's doing it out of necessity. She must feed her children, and if the man left her, she would still have those children to feed. She's doing what she has to do, and it's important that we not think of them and us. That's why the world is in the problem it is. We are all in it together. There is no them or us. There is just we, and we have to be willing to work together. And it's important that women who are trying be given the opportunity to take care of their family. And part of that is developing what I would call a living wage, so that a woman can raise her family with dignity. We have what's called the minimum wage in the United States, which is pretty low considering how rich a country we are. It's right now $5.25 an hour, whereas the cost of living is about what it is in Amsterdam to live on. You cannot raise a family on that. You really can't. And so you would say, well, why doesn't she curtail having her children and get an education? Well, I'm here to tell you there are a lot of educated women who, because of the inequities of the system, are educated and still don't make enough money to support families. A woman needs to have a guaranteed income that no matter what goes on, if her husband becomes ill, if her children are sick, that there is still a safety net available so that she can live with dignity, so that she can raise her children with dignity. It's important.
Yeah, but then the whole, it's like in England now, they knock on the doors of the fathers and say, you know, you guys have to come and help raising the family. It's not only put it on the shoulders of the state. You know, there needs to be an equal responsibility there.
Well, men do need to be responsible. If you have children, you need to take care of them. You absolutely do. You cannot have your fun and then just walk away and leave the woman holding the burden. Men should be just as responsible for caregiving, nurturing, and taking care of a family. It is not just a woman's job. No, it's not. And if it was more equitable with that, then women would have the opportunity to go out into the world and to better themselves. They really would. And like I said, I don't think it's taken anything away from the family or from society. I think everyone is bettered by a more equitable distribution of the wealth.
Very true. So we as women, you as a woman, you are a life partner of Bob. You're traveling quite a bit with him. How is it to be in Amsterdam?
How's it to be? I love Amsterdam. I mean, I say if I had to live anywhere else in the world other than the United States, Holland would be it. Okay. Yes, because I think there are lots of freedoms there that we don't have. I mean, we think that we have lots of freedoms in the United States, but there's always a conflict.
Oh, same here.
I'm sure that that's true, but I think there's a better safety net, and I think that right here, what we're doing now, we have an opportunity to do this. You wouldn't have just two women sitting and talking and have it on television or in the media because it's too expensive. It can't be done, or they say it can't be done. They say that no one will listen, that no one will watch, that no one's interested, but that's not true. I think that people are interested. You just need a forum to be able to share ideas. I wouldn't have that forum in the United States, so I think this is wonderful to be here and to have this opportunity.
Well, this is also because we are a local television station, and we also believe that on a very low budget it's possible to share ideas, feelings, and to get out there and to somehow create, use the media as a voice. What we are doing right here is to use the media as a voice to interconnect better and to communicate better with each other.
Yes, it's part of act globally, work locally. I'm from halfway across the world and sharing ideas here on the local level, and that's what's important. We have to realize that we are one world and one people, and no matter where we are, that we are. I mean, I tell people, please don't follow the model of the United States. We're a very young country. We're a rich country, but we are very young. And in a lot of ways, we're like little tyrants or spoiled children. We want. We work hard, mind you. Don't get me wrong with that. But we're pushing the consumer age and what the world sees on television and in the movies. It's the model in the United States. And it's not the best model. We realize that there, but what's being told outside, what's being sold outside is consumerism, and we can do with a lot less. We can, and we can use the funds that we have better, and we can educate and take care of our citizens better. So please don't use the American model. We're just young children in a young country trying to understand the world on a global level.
Ik vind dit een hele goede afsluiting. Twee vrouwen pratend over wat er globaal gedaan kan worden, maar beginnend lokaal. In de buurt, bij je eigen gezin, bij je partner. Begin met communicatie. Deel wat je ziet, voelt, hoe het anders kan. Je kunt bij de buurvrouw langslopen, je kunt met een kind op straat. Dat is waar het voor ons om gaat. Lokaal, globaal En dan te hopen dat we allemaal een reïntegratie hebben. En dat we allemaal met elkaar kunnen verbinden op een werkelijk level. Op een werkelijk niveau van waarheid. Op een leven wat we allemaal met elkaar kunnen delen vanuit het hart. Daar begint het voor mij mee. Volgende week zijn we er weer.